What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. We're talking more Madden 19 today with the new deep dive posted by EA Sports about franchise mode. Now, I already talked a lot about the Madden 19 franchise news from an article that was posted over the weekend during the EA Play event that was going on. So we already got much of the information that's in this deep dive, but there are some other things that weren't touched upon in that article I broke down a few days ago. So we'll go through this article now. It's linked down below in the description, and there are some new screenshots in this article as well. So obviously player archetype progression is one of the biggest changes, I'd say, to franchise this year. So we're not having the ability to go in and upgrade players through experience like we normally would. They're still gaining experience from games, awards, and whatnot, but we upgrade them, of course, now by selecting the archetype that we wish to improve. And with the skill point, which we see in this Matt Ryan screenshot, he has one skill point available, and those skill points allow you to upgrade the overall by a single point for whichever archetype you want. Whether it's turning up that 78 Scrambler or the 88 West Coast, they each cost one skill point. For quarterback, of course, we get the West Coast, Field General, Strong Arm, and Scrambler archetypes. And you see Matt Ryan's ratings for all four of those. And for West Coast, the skills they're looking at are play action, short accuracy, medium accuracy. At the end of each game, you're presented with all the players that have skill points that are ready to upgrade. For example's sake, they say that this time they applied the upgrade to Matt Ryan, it awarded him +1 to play action and +1 to deep accuracy with +2 to short accuracy. If he got a second skill point, he could receive +1 to play action and short accuracy and then throw power. So it doesn't seem that that little box right there shows all the ratings that can be affected. I do have some questions though about this system because there are some traits that players typically don't get better, or they're very difficult to actually improve. Like throw power, for instance. You won't see many quarterbacks develop a stronger arm over their careers. So on this Stefon Diggs screenshot, we see another example, upgrading him to a 93 overall deep threat. He has +1 agility, +2 catch in traffic, +2 deep route running, +1 jumping, +1 release. My main concern with this new addition, the new archetype upgrade system, is that players are going to upgrade things that they probably shouldn't be upgrading, like agility, for instance. Over time, with the previous XP upgrade system we had, they made it more expensive to upgrade things like agility, throw power, jumping, things you don't typically see players improve at. But with this new system, it seems that those are going to be a lot easier to upgrade, which I'm not a big fan of. But each time you use a skill point, it raises that archetype a single overall, and we all know that to go up an overall, it takes a number of different rating boosts. So it randomizes those within the ratings that are tied to that archetype, and you don't know the predetermined results. So you have to put your points into the archetype you want and hope they go where you want. I like the idea of upgrading based on archetypes and trying to focus their game on a specific area. I don't mind the lack of full control choosing what ratings go up and how much. But I do think that agility and jumping aren't the things that should be upgraded. I look at it more like you have rookies come in and they might be able to run really fast, they might be able to jump really high, and that kind of determines their physical potential. And it's up to everything that happens afterward to turn them into the great player. Like you see pros come in who have seemingly all the physical tools, but they never develop the route running ability, the hands, the awareness overall. So once I can play Madden 19 and dive into this, I really want to see what it looks like over time when you take a player and upgrade maybe, 10, 20 skill points to them over a couple of years. I'm not sure how fast you're going to earn them, but I want to see the overall rating change from maybe their time as a rookie to maybe their third season. What's gotten better and doesn't make sense? So you can let me know what you think of that down below in the comment section. Now we have the full list of archetypes. This is nice. So for quarterback, of course, strong arm, scrambler, West Coast, field general. For running back, we get power backs, elusive backs, and receiving backs. Fullback has blocking and utility. Wide receiver has deep threat, possession, red zone threat, and slot receiver. Tight end has vertical threat, possession, and blocking. Offensive line has agile, power, and pass protector. Defensive line has run stopper, speed rusher, and power rusher. Middle linebacker, field general, pass coverage, run stopper. Outside backers get pass coverage, run stopper, speed rusher, and power rusher. Cornerbacks have man-to-man, zone coverage, and slot. Safeties get zone coverage, run support, and hybrid. Kicker and punter, they get accurate and power. We don't have all the ratings that each of those affect, but those are all the archetypes at each position. Based on those archetypes, you'll know how well a player fits into a specific scheme, which takes us into the next section, coach scheme fits. As I mentioned in the previous video, when you have a player that fits the scheme, they develop faster than players who are not fitting. You can choose your offensive or defensive scheme, and you can see the archetypes that line up with that scheme. And you'll have an idea of what you need to go look for in the draft or free agency when it comes to filling out your scheme, or maybe you get some new players. You have a great opportunity to go get a quarterback and you have to change your scheme to fit that quarterback. I do like that element a lot, but I feel like this system is not quite where it should be. And the main reason is because we're looking at all players as the same. So for this West Coast zone run, Kyle Shanahan runs here, they have wide receivers need as a possession receiver. So Marquise Goodwin, who shined last year, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo and got a new contract, he's not a possession receiver. He's a deep threat. And he is a good scheme fit because that offense wants one. Now, what's good about this system is that, yes, possession receiver is the archetype they want, and those players get a boost. It seems there's a two-outcome system here. Either a player gets a boost or they are just simply normal, where they don't fit and they don't get a boost. Now, I think that's okay. But how is this going to affect, say, the CPU when it comes time to manage their roster? Are they only going for possession receivers? Do they want just a bunch of 6', 87 speed guys with high catching? Because that's not how rosters are built. That's mostly speculation on my part, because we haven't seen this scheme system in play yet in the current generation of Madden, and we haven't gotten to see, how the CPU now looks to build their team. I am confident their depth chart logic is going to be a big boost to the CPU, but I still have concerns about what they do during the offseason. One thing it mentions here as an example is that all the offensive linemen they look for in this scheme are agile. So they have a puzzle piece next to their icon that makes it easier to see in free agent bidding, trading, scouting, drafting, who is a scheme fit. And I like that idea right there. That's a good idea. One idea I have for a video that I will be doing when Madden 19 is new is I want to kind of do a backseat general manager experiment where I just watch a team, kind of cover them for a couple years and see what they actually do to their team overall. What kind of players are they getting? How are they allocating their cap room? What decisions are they making? And then critique them. And given these new features, I'm really looking forward to going through that experiment. At the bottom of this screenshot, it mentions players within 3 overall points of the preferred player type will increase the scheme fit percentage. Players with a perfect scheme fit match will earn extra XP in weekly training. And all the schemes in the game are West Coast zone or power running offense, vertical zone or power run, multiple zone or power run, the spread, and the run and shoot. For defense, you get base, 4-3 and 3-4, then multiple versions of those two, Tampa 2 and the 46. That takes us to the draft class creator, which was something that many of us have wanted for a long time, so we can have more control over our draft classes and create players that we want to be part of our franchises. So you can auto-generate, you can download classes from online, you can make your own locally, so there's some good control there. And there are a couple things here I'm concerned about at the same time. So when you get to the main scouting menu, you can edit players to begin the process, and you can either edit the current class or import/download a new one. And if you edit the current class, you're taken to a spreadsheet that reveals everything about the 450 players in the class. So you kind of get a peek behind the curtain at everything there very easily. You can move projections up and down, you can select players and edit their info from their names and appearance to traits and ratings. And here's a look at a spreadsheet example. We have the top 7 prospects in the class. When you access the creator, a transaction log item is sent so other people know that you've seen the full draft class, and it's also updated when you edit players so people can keep track of what is changing. In multi-user leagues, only the commissioner can adjust the draft class. But in my case, I don't want to know the ratings for everybody in the class. I was hoping they'd go with the NCAA model in NCAA 14 where you could create prospects and you could know everything about them, but you didn't get to see the entire class, the entire recruiting board for everything when you were creating. So there was still a lot of mystery for everybody else. I wish there was a way to just create the prospects that you wanted to without exposing the rest of the class and maybe spoiling ratings that you'd like to not know, because a big part of the draft is not knowing exactly what you're going to get. Here is an example of some customization here to a prospect, and you can see the overall by type for that player, their archetypes, and then it gives you an idea of what is average or good for a specific rating. And I think that's a nice thing to put in there, especially if it were to adjust by position, because 75 run blocking for a tight end is pretty darn good, but for an offensive tackle, it's replacement worthy. So in Madden Share, we're going to have the ability to share draft classes, and I'm sure that's going to be a big thing as the Madden season rolls on. Next up, the depth chart positions. I've talked about this in a couple of videos already. One of my favorite additions that we know about so far. We all know that football is a role-based game these days, and you want to have the right players in the right spots. And slot corners become a starting position, and it's reflected in how much those players are paid. Slot receiver is an important role, third down back, power back. And you see all the positions here. Defense gets most of them with their 3 defensive linemen, and then the sub linebacker also in there. I've talked about this stuff quite a bit, but essentially you're going to have players that now enter the game in specific situations and formations where these specialist positions are called upon. So in your nickel, you're going to have your rush left end, your rush defensive tackle, and your rush right end all in the game, along with your sub linebacker and your slot cornerback. And these are going to be when you're likely facing passing downs. So you have your best pass rushers out there and the right cover players in the right spots. I like that they added some conditions here for specific spots, like slot corner. You might have your number 1 corner that could be a slot corner, but that's not the best spot for him. So they don't fill that role with your CB1 or CB2 unless their archetype is actually slot corner, which would mean what they're best at. So in the case of maybe Chris Harris, when you're in your base defense there in Denver, he'll probably be starting on the outside and then kick in once you go to your nickel and dime. And that's cool. And of course, you can set this up however you choose to set it up. I also think about the CPU because I play the CPU most of the time, and I think a lot about how things need to be upgraded on their end to keep up with some of the things a user can do, and this is one of them that helps even out. The slot wide receiver position will be the best player using the slot receiver overall, but not your wide receiver 1, 2, tight end 1, or halfback 1 unless their archetype is slot receiver. So Danny Amendola, when you go to a 3 receiver set, he will go to the slot. And for power halfback, they're going to be used in goal line formations and other heavy sets. I'm guessing like 3 tight end or I formation will be calling on those power backs. He'll be the best player on your team with the power back overall. And if you have an elusive back as your best halfback and want to keep him in those same goal line formations, you just make him the number 1 power back on that specialist depth chart. For third down back, they now worry about receiving back overall, and they'll enter on third down for many formations. Sometimes in just specific shotgun formations, they'll also be called upon. I like that. Here's one I wasn't sure if they'd address, but I've been wanting this change for a while. They have edited some return logic, so starting halfbacks, receivers, corners, and safeties will not be kick returners because you don't see it happen. However, they will return punts sometimes, like Antonio Brown, so they can return punts, but not kicks. And again, that's for the CPU. You can do whatever you want. We talked a little bit about the new ratings in the game in my previous video. They are break tackle, which determines your broken tackle success versus standard tackles. Break sack, that one's pretty self-explanatory. Same with throw under pressure. Run block power, run block finesse. Those seem to be run concept oriented, so you'll have to keep in mind the player's strengths and the plays that you're using. And for lead block, that's obviously just for pulling around and leading the way. Pass block power and pass block finesse are used to defend the defensive power move and finesse, so we now have ratings that go hand in hand instead of just one run block rating and one pass block rating. This is really nice. And then of course a nice addition with short, medium, and deep route running and the routes that correlate to those ratings. Then we have immersive environments, so a nice little backdrop here on the menu, and we can see our coach or owner in their office. It'll show a Lombardi trophy if we've won a Super Bowl on the shelf, and you can go to the locker room to interact with your players. That sounds interesting. I wish they had shown that part, but they do show if you're playing as a player, you can see that player in the locker room as they prepare for the game, so that's kind of interesting. Then the draft presentation, we get to see the NFL draft and the whole stage. You see the player's name and profile pop up there on the video board, and they'll be in their new uniform when ratings will be shown. Those are some cool presentation elements, and also there are snapshots that you can take from replays during games, and you can save them, and then they're displayed throughout franchise mode, it seems. You can hold up to 100 snapshots from your league, and when you load into the game, you'll see snapshots in the background, and apparently they are everywhere, they say, including the main menu. So that's kind of cool. I like being able to show off the snapshots. That was a feature in NCAA 14 that would pop up as like news headline photos. Then team captains, you can have up to 6 captains per team. The patches appear in-game on uniforms, and each star denotes how long they've been a captain. Not all teams allow for stars to be shown though on the uniform. And then they're all going to have a star icon visible on the field to let you quickly identify the top players on your opposing team. Next up, regression has been changed a little bit, and it's based on both age and development trait, and I like the sound of a lot of this. It's much more dynamic, and each rating has a unique chance of going down, so it's not going to be as predictable. High development trait players regress slower than other players, and the age at which players at different positions start regression has been adjusted as well. This to me sounds like a step in the right direction, but I still think that regression should be on a player-by-player basis. For the development trait this year, you're going to have normal, quick, star, and superstar players, but superstar is a lot harder to come by. There are only a few per position, and the traits also change more frequently. At the end of each year, players are evaluated and they're compared to how they did to the rest of the league, and they could have their development go up or down or stay the same. Superstars need to perform at a consistently high level and be statistical leaders in order to hold on to their precious superstar trait. Rookies with superstar development are extremely rare to come by, and they are the ultimate reward of the scouting and draft process. That takes us to the end of the article. Overall, I do like a lot of the areas franchise is improving this year, specifically with the scheme system and player archetypes. Still not sure exactly about the upgrade system. I like that it's changing from what we had earlier. I just want to see how players upgrade and if the way it happens makes sense. Love the new depth chart positions. That's kind of an overall Madden thing though. I like there to have a draft class creator option where you wouldn't be exposed to the entire class when you look to customize, because it doesn't look like you add players, it looks like you just customize existing players and you can make them whoever you want them to be. But at least there's now going to be a framework for the custom draft class system to be in the game. And I think the next steps now for franchise to take are with the way CPU handles their roster, because we haven't heard much about that this year. I definitely look to dive into that once the game is out. But the big thing I want to see moving forward is coaching staffs. And I'd be okay if it was just head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator to begin, because it was an awesome addition to NCAA 14, and I think that it's an important part of football in general. Getting coaches that fit your scheme, that benefit the players. I like being able to have coaches that do make your players better. I know there's a system like that in the MLB The Show games, and I think that Madden needs it too. In my eyes, franchise still has a long way to go to get where I would like to see it, but at least this year I think progress is being made in the right direction. What do you think of the news so far regarding Madden 19 and franchise mode? Are you more excited this year than you have been in recent years? Oh yeah, one more thing, we gotta get year-to-year saves, especially with franchise and the framework for everything being so similar year to year. Year-to-year saves should be a standard in the sports gaming space, and only one game that I know of is doing it right now. But that is it for today, everybody. I managed to talk more today than last time. Alright. Thank you all for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. If you want notifications when my next videos go live, hit that bell. Also, check out my second channel, MrHurriicane LP, for much more sports gaming content. I will see you all later. Have a great day.